Hey everyone, I'm Follygon. We're going to continue working on D.VA's hair in this video. What I would like to do is continue working on the front part of her hair there, the bangs. So looking at the back of the hair, I just kind of want to get some more volume in here. I kind of pulled it off to one side. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with the hair. But what I would like to do now is try to get it to a place where it just has a bit more volume and a bit more character. Now that 3D Gizmo tool, it's the default, and I wish that you could change the default to just be the transpose tool, because personally, when I'm trying to work quick, the transpose tool is something that I've been using for a couple or a few years here now, and I'm very used to it, and I really like the transpose tool. But it's unfortunate that that 3D Gizmo pops up quite often. So I set a hotkey to that little toggle up there. I set it to H. The way you do that is hold Control and Alt and then click on any button in the UI, and then you just hit the key that you want to set that to. For me it was H because H wasn't being used by anything else. So again, going back to the hair here, just trying to get more volume in it like I was saying. I hope that watching me try to kind of problem solve and figure out what it is that I'm doing isn't super boring. I hope that it's informative and helpful for you guys, because when I'm working on pretty much any character, on any object, anything that I'm, creating here in ZBrush, I don't know exactly what I'm doing 24/7 every moment that I'm in here. So what I like to do is problem solve, and that's how I like to think of art and ZBrush. I like to think of it as not a recipe for creating something, but as a set of tools that I have that I can use to kind of get to that any destination that I want. So even right now, I had this blocked out hair, and I could have created some tubes for the individual pieces here, but instead I tried something different and just sliced them up, and now I'm just subdividing them a few times and smoothing them out. And then from there you're going to see me adjust them, and I'm going to adjust them for a long time, because this stuff is, well, it's difficult to get the exact shape that you're looking for. And even by the time I'm adjusting it for this part, I've talked in the past about how I like to only do about 10 or 15 minutes on one section before I move around to something else and then come back to it later. And the reason for that is so that you don't get too far along in one part and finish one thing and then have everything else look unfinished. So you'll see me spend about 10 or 15 minutes on this bang section of her hair, and I'm trying to get closer to that reference or that end goal that I have in my mind, that mental image that I am trying to recreate here. And I'm using different tools, like I'm using Inflate in the deformation palette down here, and a lot of other stuff to attempt to get there. And it's just a lot of work and time and effort that I have to kind of put in here, and not necessarily noodle, because noodling is kind of working in the same area without making much progress. But in this case, it is making progress, and it is getting closer to where I would like it. But it's just a matter of me kind of thinking, okay, now what tools do I have right now that I could use to kind of get this closer to what I want? And right now, what I want is for these hair pieces to be more sharp. So I tried using my my move brush, right? And I tried to use the AccuCurve feature with the move brush, and I've talked about that one all the time, and I think I've talked about it in a previous episode here. But the move brush isn't getting the sharp enough edge that I need. And when I pull it down, it just ends up making it too long, and I'm just ending up with a lot of problems. So what I decide to use is a slice curve brush, and I use this for a lot of things, but I'm just very quickly slicing off parts of that tip to give it some sharpness, and then I close holes and Z-remesh it very low, and then when you look here at this new mesh, you can see that it does have the sharpness that I'm looking for, and I can subdivide it and smooth it to kind of round it up. I could even use a trim brush on the edges there, and that would help a lot. So there's just like a lot of combinations of tools and techniques and all sorts of stuff that I'm doing here to kind of get to my end goal, like I was talking about. And not necessarily the end goal, because like I said, spending 10 or 15 minutes in one section, but getting closer to that mental image that I have. And you can see that at this point, like, I really liked that technique, so I'll go ahead and go back and start slicing up some more hair and trying to do the same thing. And now it's a bit sharper, so maybe I can use the move brush with AccuCurve if I want to get a little bit more sharpness in there. So you can see this starting to take shape slowly but surely. So at this point I'm going to speed up the footage just a little bit just so we can kind of get through this section, because a lot of it is just kind of repeating what I've been doing. Now for this, I'm just going to continue to use the slice curve brush, which is what I said I was using before. From there, I close holes on those parts, and then I just Z-remesh them as low as possible and try to kind of smooth out and round those parts and pieces around those edges so that I can get a little bit more of a tubular structure. And in retrospect, you know, sometimes the way you normally do it, like just using a curved tubes brush, one of the things that we use for everything, is a better method. But, you know, I think it's smart and it is a good idea to experiment and try to find things that work, and also try to find things that don't work, because failure isn't always bad, especially in art. I mean, failure is an opportunity for you to learn something new and find out what doesn't work. So maybe this idea didn't work, in this case in particular, but I actually recently tried it on my Dream Daddy character. If you've seen that, it's I believe the Game Grumps are affiliated with it, but the game called Dream Daddy, it's like a dad dating simulator. So I'm creating a character from that, and for his beard I did a very similar technique to what you're seeing here, and hopefully I'll release that speed sculpt here so you can see me work on that beard real quick, and you can kind of get the idea of you know, what I'm doing with this hair, but maybe in a more successful manner. So at this point, just trying to kind of correct not the mistakes, but just the bad shapes and forms that are going on, because I did it in a method that maybe didn't have as much control as I would have liked. So I have it all kind of swooping down to the left, but I want to, as that gets closer to her right side of her face, our left if we're looking at her, as that gets closer to that side, I want it to start curving in the opposite direction. And I'm trying to find a solution for that, but it's really not working out. So what I end up doing is I just grab a curved tube brush and try to correct it and start getting it to flow the other direction. So a thing to keep in mind with the curved tubes brush or any insert mesh brush is that it doesn't like subdivision levels. So you either have to freeze subdivision levels, which is not recommended by me, at least in this case, or you can step down or step up and delete higher or lower subdivs depending on where you are. So you see me use the curved tubes brush here. I throw one in pretty quick and sloppily, just trying to get it into position. Right now, I still like to think about blocking in shapes. It's not so much of just getting the most perfect shape. We can always come back to this later and make it better. But at the same time, you know, it's important to take your time with this stuff. So try not to rush too much, like me. I use the curved tube brush there. I use the curve modifier, or I'm sorry, the size modifier, with a little curve that allowed me to kind of taper it down from large to small. If you see that graph on the far left side of the screen there, underneath curve modifiers, you just crank that all the way to the top on the left and very close to the bottom on the right side, and you'll get that good clean fall off. So the last thing that I'm going to be doing here is just kind of cleaning up what we already have. And that just means pulling and pushing stuff, using my move brush, using the transpose brush there. Well, actually not brush, but the transpose tool. It might actually be a brush. I think you can select it from the brush menu. Either way, I'm using that to control click on some parts of my meshes here, so that I can mask everything else except for that piece. It's a very quick and clean way of just creating a quick mask. I can't wait for the day when ZBrush really bumps up their layer system so it's a lot easier to work with stuff like this. And the last little bit here is just me kind of tapering in some of these edges at the top of the hair to kind of curve them into the head for them to make more sense. But we will look more at the hair as a whole in the next episode, and I will see you guys over there.